Yeah. So real true story. I years back was working in a gym. At that time, I was full time personal trainer, health and fitness person, and I had started had just come off of running a marathon, and it kind of started a running club, and it had a couple of people who were interested. One of which was a one of the employees worked at the front desk. I started building a relationship with her, just walking in, saying hi to her and whatnot. And she had, I can't remember if she was reading the Word or studying the Bible, but I know she had some sort of interest in her relationship with God. As a matter of fact, I think her daughter had just formed a relationship or had a relationship with God, and her daughter was talking to her, so she was trying to figure things out. And um, we were out running one day, so I think I asked her, what do you know about God, or do you have a relationship with God? And she stated, I don't, but I would like to have one. And one thing led to another. I never personally sat down and studied with her. I think I shared some scriptures with her, but a couple of weeks later, she started visiting the congregation where we were attending, and she became a Christian. Just as, I shouldn't say just as simple as that, but I wasn't afraid to just say, "Hey, do you have a relationship with God? And if you don't, would you like to have one?" So that is my quick evangelism story right there.
That's a good one. So tell us who you are, your name, where you're from, an interesting fact.
Sure. So Maurice Williams. I am originally from Brooklyn, New York, but I grew up. I'm a military guy, military person. My dad was in the Marine Corps. Grew up in South Carolina from age 4 to 18, and now I live in a small town called Henderson, Tennessee. It is where Freed Hardeman University is. So I'm a professor here at the university, Christian University. And interesting fact about me. I don't know if there's anything interesting really about me.
You
I,
ran a
I
marathon,
used to,
man.
yeah. I ran a marathon. My wife and I, we actually did not know each other, but we became. This is one we always share when we go to like marriage workshops and things that nature when the married couples get together. We were baptized in the same year. We did not know each other, but in the same year, about 3 months apart from each other, in the same part of the country, in the Midwestern part. Her in Michigan, and myself in Ohio. So that's I guess an interesting fact about me and her.
That's cool, man. So, like in the show, we like to talk about strategies, so equipping people to share their faith bravely. So, what do you think three strategies are that you can help people with when it's share on the show?
I mean, the first strategy is you have to trust God. You have to trust God's word, right? Bible tells us that that word goes out, it's not going to come back, right? It's not going to come back void. It's going to have to fall on some seed, some soil, and then he's going to do the work. So number one, you have to trust God. I stated this in my opening, um, in the prayer rather, which they didn't hear, but you heard. Our disposition, our disposition. Number two, our disposition. What are we? How are we carrying ourselves? Not uh, what's the word I want to use? Not putting on a front, right? Just so that people can not just I'm going to purposely like open my Bible up while I'm on the metro or while I'm walking down the street and pretend like I'm reading. I'm not talking about that. I mean, be genuinely going about your day, having something different about you. When everybody else is upset, you're smiling because you have a relationship with God, uh, and then just have some sort of easy to hear opening um, kind of statement. Hey, are you? I'm a Christian. I am a Christian. Are you? Do you know anything about Christianity? Are you? Do you ever read your Bible? What are your thoughts on the Bible? Just simple things like that. Like you want to let them do most of the talking, listen, and that gives you the opportunity to build that trust with them, build a relationship with them, uh, and then hopefully that will lead to some actually sit down, purposeful Bible study. But oftentimes, if we don't build that relationship with people, they don't really care what we have to say. And it definitely, if we're not showing it, and our attitude and the way we're carrying ourselves, they're definitely not going to want to sit down with us. So those are my 3 tips right there.
Awesome. So like in trusting God, what are some ways that you found to help you improve that part of your walk?
Um, just being bold enough to even just have that conversation, just saying, you know what, I don't quite know how this is going to go. I'm probably going to make some mistakes, but God told me to trust Him. He said that all I had to do was uh, put the word out there. He'll water it. All I got to do is plant. It'll water, and then you know it'll eventually grow, right? So having the what's the word I'm looking for? The courage, first of all, just to be able to put that word, out there. And it could be just as simple as starting with um, your immediate sphere of influence, whether that is your family, whether that is your friends, expressing to them, hey, I really have a desire to grow with God and to learn His word. And I've been reading through some things. And this is something I want to share with you. It might be helpful. It's been helpful for me. It might be helpful for you as well. So starting simple like that, instead of saying like, hey, do you want to, I know you're not a Christian, and I have all the information that you need to become a Christian. So let's sit down and let's talk about that, right? Well, we don't do it that way, but to an extent, sometimes we do. And that really turns people off. So if we approach it more from a standpoint of, hey, this is something that I think can help you, instead of me saying you're wrong and I'm going to tell you where you're wrong and how to get right, that approach seems to work, or at least it's worked for me.
Oh, yeah, that's good. Well, and I like the fact that we should be thinking about how God is, why are we a Christian in the first place? Like, how does being a Christian help us in life, not just in eternity, but also in our day-to-day life? How do we deal with anger, stress, all those things? So that if we could write that down about us, like how that's helping
Yeah.
us, because I take it for granted. Like I'll take for granted to know that we live past death. A lot of people might not even know that, or that you don't have to be angry all the time, and that there's a way to deal with anger. So that's it. Just write down those things. I like that, and then ask people when they're having a hard time. Hey, oh, how do you deal with that? And they go, I don't know. I have no idea. So that's
Yeah.
good.
I
And
just
then
had a conversation with, not to cut you off, but I just had a
yeah,
conversation with someone last week, and we were talking. I was sharing with them some of the struggles I'm having recently, and when I got through everything, she said, "Maurice, that's a good approach that you have." And in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's not me. It's because I know that I'm a Christian. I know that this is the approach I have to have, and I'm comfortable with that. Like I can easily point the finger and say it's everybody's fault, but then that wouldn't do any good, knowing that the situation I was talking with her about has a lot to do. It can also be my fault, and I think it's fair to say, with humility, that hey, I could be wrong, and I'm willing. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to admit that and make those changes, and that's part of Christianity, man.
that's it. Well, and you got like
Looking at yourself first before looking at others.
right. Yeah. Well, I mean that's what people are going to look at too when you're
Hmm.
talking to them. If you're like, hey, you need to be you have to have joy, and they're like, where's your joy? You have to have
Yeah,
patience. Where's your patience? So that's exactly true. Yeah, you got
that's
to
a good point.
reflect it, walk it out.
I have a buddy. Actually, he's my best friend in high school. Actually, elementary school, middle school, and high school. And I can't remember what we were talking about. We saw each other recently for the first time, and recently in around Thanksgiving, we saw each other. Our high school football team made it to the state championship. We still follow our high school football team, and he actually lives on the West Coast, and I live here, in Tennessee, and we actually both. This is how dedicated a fan we are. We flew to South Carolina just for one day to watch this game. But anyway, so we connected or whatever. We hadn't spoke to each other in like years, in person, like we've communicated through Facebook. So long story short, we were talking about something when we got back, to our respective places, and I think we were communicating online, and I was sharing something with him, and then he said, "Hey, man, I'm actually trying to get into reading the Bible. Do you have any recommendations for me?" And that just wasn't like, out of the blue, like let me just ask Maurice. I'm assuming, I didn't ask him, but I'm assuming it's because he knows that I share scriptures online, and that you know, most of our communication is online. So I'm assuming it's from that. So even something like that, you just never know who's watching you, and who may reach out to you for advice. So I actually ended up sending him A Muscle and the Shovel book. Is a good place to start. And I followed up with him just to, I don't want to put beat him down or anything along those lines, but periodically just check in with him. He says so far the book is good and didn't have any questions. So I'll just continue to follow up with him. But I mean, that's kind of what's the word I want to use? It's a little passive. It is a little passive, but sometimes those passive, allowing someone else to quote unquote do the work for you, it's helpful. And it's not a bad thing, because that book is really geared to help people to understand about the church and how to become a Christian, and those sorts of things. So I would tell him those same things that he's going to read in the book, but he's getting it from, more of a story standpoint. So, and I preface it with, hey man, if there's anything you have questions about, let me know. We can start here, and then we can just kind of go from there in terms of where you should be reading in the Bible.
Right. Well, and the only passive you would have been is not to do anything. Active
True.
is doing something. Like, how in the world is somebody going to talk to you about your faith if you never tell anybody about that you're a Christian? Then you're either to come out of the
Yep.
blue and say, hey, those of you listening, do you think if you never posted on Facebook any Bible verse, you never talked about the Bible, never brought the Bible into work, who knows? You think someone randomly is just going to talk to you and say, hey, could you tell me about the Bible? Then you're not going to do it.
It's Yeah, very, very little chance. Very little chance for sure.
Yeah, unless God sends them to you, and even the guy like Philip, remember, God sent Philip to this guy, but what was he doing? He was reading the Bible. So
Yeah.
the guy was reading the Bible anyways. So that's
Yep.
awesome. I love these stories when people, because you were not ashamed, because you were brave, um, to talk about your Christianity, to show it openly, that you opened up an opportunity to someone to come to you comfortably and say, hey, I want to learn about the Bible, and I want to learn it from you. And that's good. And that shows that your life is, you're not like a guy who's so mean and condemning that they don't even want to talk to you about it. You're a guy that the way your personality is, whatever, is open to him being comfortable to come to you. And that's what we should be.
Yeah.
People should feel comfortable to come to us.
I've had my fair share of turning people off, though. I'll admit that 100. I'm sure we all have.
Yeah, yeah.
Unintentional, just ignorant, and too ignorant, and just didn't know how to guide the passion. So I think about those individuals all the time, and I hope this, somebody else, if I'm not given the opportunity to, again, somebody else that they have a better relationship with will be able to do that.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's why God works in powerful ways, even if we're not that good. Many times we're like the fire. Well, I'm like the fire hose sometimes, and I should be like the garden hose.
Yeah, true, man.
Well, it's been awesome having you on the show. I think what we want to do now is we've got a couple stories, a couple strategies, and like trusting God, for example. He's faithful. If you work with Him, He'll work with you. Your disposition, how you carry yourself, and then easy to like ask questions. Have an opening statement that's not pressure. Oh, I saw you did this, or this thing. This seems like, oh, are you a Christian, or have you read the Bible? And kind of like a more learning, not condemning, or not like attacking, but just learning. How did you get to that? Why are you that way? So
Hmm.
that's good. Easy to hear opening statement. And then we have the two great stories. So what about a call to action? Let everybody's listening. This could be their
Sure.
last day on earth, right? And then they're going to meet God one day. And let's say they're Christians. Don't we want to meet God working?
Yeah. I
So
mean,
what would be your call to action for everybody listening?
so many songs. I want to be a worker for the Lord, and um, you know, we we're supposed to get a rest, but we got to work first. So um, call to action is like right now, pray, pray for the right things to say, pray for the confidence to say it, and then write down 5 names of people who you know right now who are not Christians. Pray for those individuals, and then contact them and say, "Hey, I just prayed for you. I don't know if there's anything particular going on in your life. I'd love to know that. I want to continue to pray for you. And then if there's any questions that you may have, right? Anything that you want me to know about, anything that I can help you with from a biblical standpoint, let me know. I think that's a good way to get going. Open up that relationship, build that relationship with those 5 individuals. If you haven't reached out to them in a while, be a perfect time too. If you already know them, this would be an opportunity to at least, let them know, hey, I'm thinking about you, especially in, these days and times that we're in right now. And that is, I think that is a compassionate way of going about talking to, at least opening up the door to talk to individuals when you let them know that, hey, I'm praying for you. Is there anything else, right, that I just generally pray for you, but I want to specifically pray for you. And then that could lead you into, hey, you told me to pray about X, Y, and Z. Are you familiar with this passage in scriptures? It says this. Can I share it with you? And then, hey, yeah, you know what? Somebody told me about it. I have questions about that. What does that really mean? You never know where that could take you. So that's my quick call to action. Everybody should go about doing.
Well, if they did that, if you put 5 names down, worst case scenario, they're going to know that you care about them. Maybe they're not interested in the Bible. Best case scenario is every single one of them has some crazy need. They needed a prayer and you just happen to pray. And now they're like, wow, how did this person do this? And you say, not me, it's God. So
exactly.
Don't waste the opportunities, because we don't have a lot of opportunities, right? We just don't waste it. So awesome, Maurice. Thanks for being on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Glad we're able to get together.
Yeah, God bless you.
You've been listening to Be Brave. The world right now is a crazy place, and sharing the love of God is the most important thing we can do right now. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hit up gobebrave.org. Remember, the love of God is the most powerful force in the universe. Learn how to love like Jesus. See you next time.